Peace and welcome. Welcome to the Free Spirit Friday Financial Freedom Edition for this Friday, the 13th, 2020. I am so excited to do this series and share it with y'all. I have a few guests that I'm interviewing for this main event, and we're going to talk about everything from being a free spirit to being a mom, financial freedom, hustling or not, manifesting, ascension, feminine energy, what all these things mean to us and why it's so important to discuss and connect with these things at this time. So, the guest for this moment is Hadassah L. I'm so excited to have you here with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
And we have a number of things that we're going to discuss. Before we do that, I just want to make sure I tell you a little bit about us and how we connected. So, I have a few different businesses. Mainly, people know about Ascension with Angelica, but then there's also Abundance with Angelica. And under that umbrella, I am talking about not only abundance, but mostly financial literacy and financial freedom. And through that process, I end up connecting with a lot of people on social media through Facebook, Instagram. I used to be active on Twitter, not so much anymore. But sometimes you connect with people on social media and it ends up becoming genuine connections. That's one of the things that I really love about it is that we're able to connect with people who we're meant to connect with on a deep spiritual level that we may or may not have been able to cross paths with, without this type of medium, right? So initially, I believe that Hadassah and I connected over things like homeschooling and astrology and wellness. And that just continued to grow and build. We are both Life Paths 8. So we're both here on this journey to be builders of spiritual foundations and financial foundations. And so it is just amazing at this time, at a major, major turning point in our history, right? With all the things that are happening in this world, that we are now also able to be business partners. And she is able to mentor me. And I'm very grateful for that because the Life Path 8 struggle is real.
Oh, honey.
It is real.
Ah, can I just a woosah, right? I should be burning some incense right now, okay?
Always
Let me
burning
get
the
wait a
incense
minute. Let
over
me let me
here.
get my Palo Santos. Let me this
And
calls
so,
for right.
yes. And so, one of the first things I wanted to talk about and ask you is about this idea of being a free spirit. I have this theme of Free Spirit Fridays. And, we sometimes, as spiritual people, we could be woo woo and free spirited, and that can be very easy for us at times, even though it may not be easy for others. But then, as someone who is a Life Path 8, who's also destined to be rooted and mastering the material realm, right? What is it like to connect with that type of energy? And do you even feel like a free spirit all the time, and why or why not?
Okay. The thing about that is okay, as far as the astrological piece of it, say because with my chart, and we've talked about this before. I'm a Aries. My sun sign is Aries. I have a Pisces moon. I have a Leo rising. So we talk about that as a big three. But then I have a stellium of Aries planets and then also two asteroids in Aries, and they're between my ninth and 10th house. So when you talk about free spirit, like I have a lot of that energy in my ninth house, which is that house that's traditionally ruled by Sagittarius. So you talk about free spirited,
Right.
right?
And more
It's
fire, more fire, more fire.
right, right. All that fire, this is a firehouse. And then it's ruled by, Aries, that's that fire sign, like trailblazing, uh, you know. And so by my sun being there and my Mercury being there and Jupiter, right, being there in Aries, and then the asteroid, I have Ceres on that side of my ninth house. Oh my gosh, it's like it's crazy. So I knew, um and it's kind of might be getting a little bit ahead, so I don't want to get too much of it, too much into it. But I intuitively knew as a young person, I can say probably as early as 4 or 5 years old, even, that I was supposed to be free. You know, I was supposed to work for myself. I just knew that I wanted my time, right? I wanted to be free. And so free spirited, I didn't know that's what it was called at that particular time, being so young. But again, I knew that I didn't want anybody to be telling me, what time to do this, what time to do that. And not that I didn't want structure, it's just that I wanted the freedom to structure my own world and my own life. That's what I
Mm,
knew I wanted to do. So freedom for me, that's what freedom means. Freedom for me means that, I call the shots to say what time to do this. What I mean, maybe I want to do it earlier. You see what I'm saying? Not
mm-hmm.
necessarily later. Maybe if they start at 10, maybe I want to start at 6. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? Right?
Right.
If they say, come at that time, or, do it then, maybe I want to do it now, right? Maybe
Right.
not later, right? Maybe earlier. And so, those are the kind of things that we think about when we think of, oh, freedom, like, oh, I just want to be lackadaisical and I just want to lay up and not do anything. No, I just want to do everything right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's the
Right.
Aries part. Like right now is when I want to do it.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
bringing it back to that for a moment, just in case we have some people who are not as well versed in astrology, how would having all of that Aries energy, how would that relate to that energy of now and freedom?
Yeah.
What are the
So
things that define Aries energy?
um Aries energy, when you think about it, it is let me see how. Okay, this is how I can better explain it, in like layman's terms. Think of your first responders, right? Your first
Mm-hmm.
responders are those that respond in an emergency. They have to have quick instincts. you know your firefighters, your military, your police officers, even your athletes, all like that, they are under that Aries domain because of, having to be quick and instinctual. There's no time to, and they often say that, like Aries don't think first, they act first and then think later. Well, that can definitely be a problem, you know and in other situations, but in emergency situations, that's perfect. You want the person to act first, right? They have to
Right.
act first. That's
Mm-hmm.
instinct. Like, say, hey, if my child is about to fall down and I'm right there, my instinct is quickly grab them. I don't need to think, oh, should I grab them? Should I what? They're about to hit the pavement, right?
Right.
And so we don't want them to hit the pavement. We instinctually or instinctively grab them real quick, as not to, for the person to get hurt. So when we think of that Aries energy on that positive side of that, then that's awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with that Aries energy, that's even the like entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship comes under that Aries domain because it's that ability to be a self-starter, a self-motivator. Like you don't most or I won't say most Aries, because all Aries are not self-starters. All Aries are not self-motivated. you know, we do, there are those that, on the negative side of that Aries spectrum, we're thinking of the bully, or no, not the bully. That's more so like negative side of Leo, but the gangbanger, that
Mm-hmm.
the one, that the thug that's just out there, you know, being reckless, and I'm do what I want to do, how I want to do, that kind of thing. Um, but on the positive side, it is their self-starter. It's their self motivator. No one has to motivate the positive um, or balanced Aries energy. They're self-motivated. When I want to do something, I get up and I do it.
Right.
And it's because I know what it is that I want. I know what I'm after. I know what I want. And so I get up and I do that. And no one has to pat me on the shoulder or tap me on or micromanage me or anything like that. So that's that energy. That's that Aries energy. When you think of again, going back to the whole first responders, your military, your athletes, your firemen and things like that. They respond in emergencies. They respond quickly. They act now. So that's what that is.
Very good, relatable explanation. I love it. So you mentioned things coming up for you when you were a younger person. So when and how did you realize that there was something unique or special about you? Or when did you actually realize, like, oh, I might be a free spirit, or there's something more to this?
Again, when I was about like 4 or 5.
And what was it that happened that caused you to have that realization? Hello, are you there?
I was I was saying that I was trying to think of an age, but I can't really think of that age right now. But I do know what grade I was in, because this was my cousin died at that age. I had a cousin that passed away. He was 15 months old. So that was my first experience with death. And that first experience with death wasn't with an older person, in which we expect older people to die, but this was a baby, and I was very, very close to him. um and I always wanted to be around him. I just even remember with him being born and everything, I would go outside and play with my friends and stuff, but when he was born, i didn't want to I didn't want to leave the house too much. I wanted to be around him or near or something like that. And so when he passed away, I was because I lived in Mississippi in my formative years. I was born in Chicago, but I lived in Mississippi in my formative years with my father and my grandmother. And but we were here visiting. We would stay the school year in Mississippi, and we would come back to Chicago with my mom in the summer. So when we were visiting in Chicago for the summer, my cousin had got sick. And by the time we got back to Mississippi for, the school year, he had died. And so I remember his funeral, and we were there. And I see this little casket. He's laying in the casket, but I knew he wasn't he I felt him there. I felt him. I didn't see him, but I felt his spirit or his energy sitting next to my grandmother. And my grandmother was, she's crying and everything. And I'm just kind of like, okay, I see his body in that casket, but he's sitting next to you, Grandma. When we got home, I felt him in the house. And this was for, I can't think of how long, but it was some time. And then next thing you know, it was like he wasn't, there anymore. So I remember wanting to say something to my grandmother, like, he's here, he's here. But then when I was about to say it, it was like my mouth was shut, like I couldn't open my mouth.
Mm.
And I heard, now I know it was spirit, but I heard something say to me, do not say anything, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't open your mouth. And I couldn't open my mouth. Like I was literally trying to, and I couldn't. That's when I knew that something was unique, special, or different about me, because I could feel spirits or energies or whatever in the room. I could hear them. And I knew that I couldn't say anything to anyone about it. And I was in the second grade. So whatever age people are usually in the second grade, that's how old I was.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Wow. That's amazing to have had that experience and to be able to recall all of that. So then, what are your views on ascension and abundance, or spirituality and the material?
Um, well, I let's see. I grew up in a pretty religious background. And when I say that, being down south, it was Baptist, and then being here in Chicago, I wouldn't necessarily say that my mother was a Christian, because my mother actually studied various religions. Um, and the church that we went to, the pastor of that church, he had a Baptist background, but he kind of went against the grain and he was more into metaphysics. So I would say that I was immersed into metaphysics without me really having a title to it at that time.
Mhm.
So at that particular church, it was there was a like I won't say we studied the Bible. The Bible was there. I'll put it that way. The Bible was there. Some scriptures were read out of the Bible just to have your regular church service, but he went a lot into numerology. He went a lot into like things metaphysical. And so, I had that background, and then the books that were around, because my mother's she's an educator, and instead of her buying handbags and purses and clothes and stuff like that, her fancy was books. So we had a library in the house, and this library consisted of all kinds of books. There was a lot of books on Buddhism and Taoism and metaphysics and financial books. Think and Grow Rich was there in the house, and the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary was there in the house. So all of these things were in my environment. And and yeah, I mean, with Buddhism, she had the box that you chant to, and you say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and all of this was in my environment, right? So I knew that there were many different practices, but when it came into me with my own, mine was more scientific. My spirituality was more scientific, so I would say it was more metaphysics. I studied in the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research, I, got my metaphysical degree and, ministerial license and certificate and all of that, through that. And so my spirituality is more so of it has to manifest, you know, I have to be able to see a pattern of, spiritual, um and this is a scripture in the Bible, Romans 1:19 and 20, that which is known, and you're going to hear me say the name of Yah, the name Yahweh. Many people know that as Lord God Jesus Christ. So, that which may be known of Yahweh is manifest in them, because he has shown it unto them. For the invisible things of the creation are clearly seen by the things that are made. What does that mean? That means that anything invisible will manifest itself in the material. So if I'm saying that I'm wealthy and that I have abundance and it's not manifested, something is wrong, and I need to be able to go in and correct whatever that is on that spiritual level or that intermediate level, so that it ends up manifesting in my life, because we are here in this material realm. Everything that we're looking at has a spiritual counterpart. It started in the spirit first, and then it manifested as something that we can see, touch, taste, smell, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, if we're abundant, and which we all are, we're all abundant. We can, we're all wealthy. We really are. However, it has to be manifested. It must be manifested. And if it's not, we have to check what's going on. Is it being, is it something that we're doing, or is it being stolen, or through some type of deception or something like that, but we can always check that by what has been manifested in our lives. And that's my belief and my take on spirituality.
Interesting. So, where for you then does the idea of hard work or hustling connect with the idea of manifesting?
Now, I am not a believer in man. Now look, that's a lead in for what I just got in, right? Because
Yep.
look, when I just said something is wrong, something being stolen or whatever, if we have not manifested, what
Mm-hmm.
steals that? That hustle hard, thinking, that hustle hard mentality. Because we have all hustled hard, we have all worked hard. And when we do that and we look and we see, um, with all that energy that we put in and put into it, well, I'm gonna speak for myself. I work hard, hustle hard, and then don't have nothing. But when I get into manifestation mode and I sit back and I relax and I really tune into, my spirit self and manifest, it's magical and it happens quickly. Now, here's the thing about that. I operated from that space as a child on up, and no problem. When I decided to, well, you know what? Maybe I'm an adult now, right? I'm an
Mm-hmm.
adult now. And so, maybe this manifestation and this, that, and the other, because this is the way the world is doing it. And I'm telling you, I started adopting that maybe I was about 25. That's exactly how old I was. I was 25. Now, from a child on up to 24 or so, whatever I wanted, and I mean, I'm talking about even down to my children. I used to play with my little baby dolls. I had a baby doll and a what you call it? Some kind of fluffy bear that I won when I was a Girl Scout. I, I I set my eyes on something. I was like, okay, I'm gonna win this package right here because I want this little furry baby doll thing or whatever. And then that's exactly what happened. I sold them cookies and got that package because I said that's what I wanted. Right. So here it is. I had this baby doll and I had this little furry bear thingy, and I used to play with them like they were my twins. I said, because I said that I wanted twin girls. And so I would play with those two little things like they were my twin babies. Guess what happened? When I had my first pregnancy, I had twin daughters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then one fine day, I said that I wanted a son. Then I was like, one, please, because I knew when I said something and I wanted it, it would happen. So I had to be clear. I'm like, one. And then the
Right.
next time I had a child, I had one son. Right. Now,
Right.
maybe I should have said something about the ages that I had these children. But when I say be very specific, I mean, you better say, okay, I want these children at this age with this type of man. And now, please be
Right.
more specific, because I want twins. I had them. I had them early and woo, baby. So manifest. Oh yeah, I know exactly how to do that. So anyway, so and me wanting to I was good at hair. I just had I had that naturally. I went to school to learn the technical skill set and everything. I set out to do that. I did that by like I said, everything that I wanted, I set out to do it, and I did. And then so I'm 24, 25 years old, doing hair, managed through 3 salons, making about $4,000 a month cash at 20 something, right? Um, and then for some reason, my mind decided that I needed to grow up and be an adult. And when I'm saying this, I'm doing quotations with my fingers, and you know, and do it the way that the world is doing it, with the hustle hard and work hard. And as soon as I started doing that, it was terrible. That's all I could say. It was terrible. It was slower. I'm doing this hard work, but it was slower. I took a huge hit in my finances. So it was sliced in half. It was like I lost my clients, and I mean, just all kinds of stuff. With that, I'm gonna take on the way that the world does it, because that's what the world teaches. The world teaches work hard, hustle hard. Now, I'm not saying don't put in the work, but there's a way to put in the work where you're working smart and not hard. And you have to know what that is for you. For me, working smart was doing what I was doing prior, manifesting, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm a manifesting generator. And I didn't even know that term at the time. I hadn't done the that test and all that kind of stuff, but I was just operating from that place. But when I learned about that later on down the line, I said, dog it, I'm a manifesting generator. That's what I was doing just intuitively. And my life was like magical. And then as soon as I started taking on the way that the world teaches to do things, and the way the world, my stuff went plummet down. It just went, it went down. And so now I'm getting back in the space of, hey, manifesting generator, right? Knowing my astrological makeup, to where if somebody say, I'm being bossy or whatever. Oh no, you just got a problem with my Leo rising. She, right, you got a problem with my Aries sun Leo rising. I can't do nothing about that. That's who I am, right? That's my
Right.
astrological makeup. You know, oh, you two, you want to help everybody all the time. I do. That's my Pisces moon, but I know that I have to set boundaries, well, okay, so I know stuff, right? I have dreams. And when I say I have dreams, not daydreaming, like, no, I have literal dreams at night to let me know what's happening, what's going on, all of that kind of stuff. And then I wake up and say something about this dream I done had, oh, you crazy. No, we gonna see if I'm crazy in 3 days. Because in 3 days, this dream gonna manifest itself and come out. And
Right.
sure enough, it does. That's my Pisces moon. You got a problem with my Pisces moon. Right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when you know who you are, like and then we got the 4 personality types, right? They do them in colors or in let's see, there's like yellow, green, blue, and red. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's shark, urchin, dolphin, and whale. And so the shark personality type is it correlates with the red color red. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think it's blue. I think the blue personality type correlates with the whale. Well, we all have those personality types, but some is more dominant than the others. I'm more of a whale or blue. I want to help people. That's my lead in. But in emergency situations, I'm a shark.
Right.
Right? Emergency, oh, I'm shark. But and just your regular then I'm whale. Yeah, I want to help people, and stuff like that. And so, it's really good to just know. And then I'm an introvert. I'm extroverted when I need to be, but I'm more of an introvert. I'm an INFJ. They say that's 1% of the population or whatever, but then you got to think of how many people are on Earth. So we're talking about 7 out of 7 billion people. 1% of 7 billion people, that's still a lot of people.
Right.
Right? I remember I put that out there and it was like, that information, and somebody, I don't know if they felt triggered or or they thought that I was trying to make myself seem special or whatever. And it's like, that wasn't even what I was doing. I just put my personality type out there. And the information said, it's this 1% of the population. Oh, if it's 1% of the population, then why you such and such and so on, so this and the other. And I had to break down the numbers. I'm like, it's 7 billion people on Earth. Do the
Right.
calculations. 1% out of 7 billion people. That's still a lot of people.
Man. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's you and see, and you have to know these things about yourself. So when people come for you, if they're attacking who you are, and you stand firm in knowing who you are. I'm clear on me, right? I am
Mm-hmm.
clear on me. I'm clear on I want to help people. I'm clear on an emergency situation. I'm gonna be a shark. I'm clear on I'm an Aries with this energy. I respond, and I respond quickly to things. I'm clear on, I'm a Leo rising. So when I walk in the room, my presence is big, right? I just sitting there chilling. But everybody else is feeling the presence or my aura or whatever in the room, and I can want to be in the back or chilling and not put myself up there, but then somebody is going to put me up front. So I'm like, how about I'm gonna make my distance from the back of the room to the front of the room shorter, and I'm gonna sit in the front so that when they call me up there, I have a shorter distance to walk. Right? Just because just because just because of that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so um that's I didn't mean to get like totally off or whatever, but that's just that whole thing of just knowing who you are. And then of course that part of being a manifesting generator, that's part of who I am too. So I'm away from the work hard. No, I'm working smart. And my working smart is manifest. Manifest. I sit down first. I sit down first. I write these things out by hand. You know, what it is I want, being very specific. Um, if it's something that I need to change that out or whatever. So that once it's set and done and I have it there and it's on paper now and I can see it, then I go about to, utilize my energy in a way where I manifest and then attract those, attract people who are meant to be with you, partner with you, work with you, so that it's not such a hard pull. Because, gosh, who want to be pulling folk?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Who wants
Mm-hmm.
to do that? That's that part of that working hard again. So, that's my take on it. That's my stance on it. If you're gonna work hard at being exactly who you are.
Awesome message. Thank you. And you didn't really get away from anything. I'm glad that you brought up being a manifesting generator and shared those tips for those who will listen to this that are also manifesting generators and trying to figure it out. And also, just in case there's anyone who isn't familiar with that, there are so many different ways to look at personality and to look at who you are and figuring that out. And so the manifesting generator is one of the types that falls within the human design. So all you have to do is Google manifesting generator, Google human design, and you can, basically put in your information and see which type you would be considered under that method of looking at energy types or personality types. And that'll give you another frame of reference to understanding who you are and how you would best function in the world and be able to articulate it to others also, because sometimes people struggle with that, right? But
Yes.
you mentioned so many things that help segue into the next set of questions. So you mentioned numbers and you mentioned manifesting. And so I want to ask you now about the number 13 and your beliefs around divine feminine energy and that connection to this current shift in the world, or do you even see those things as connected?
Okay. Hello. Are we
Yes,
still here?
yes.
Okay. I think it's something on my end because I do hear the wind blowing really hard, and yeah, the call kind of went out a little bit. Okay, so I think I heard. I'm just saying, if I heard you correctly, you spoke about the divine feminine and where we are in this point in time in history.
Yes, and
Is that correct?
the number 13 being that you mentioned numbers and metaphysics, and we're, releasing this on the 13th, Friday the 13th. So what are your views on all of that?
Okay, so the number 13, oh my God, it's so many things that this world has taken that is really positive, and they spent it in a way where, you know they spent it in a way to make it like, ooh, witchcraft, and you don't want to, deal with that, and made it bad luck and stuff like that, when it's the total opposite. It is the total opposite. So the 13, the number 13, and then this being released on Friday the 13th, and you are absolutely right. I didn't even, wow, yeah, you're right. Oh, this Friday is a 13th. Right.
Yes.
I'm looking at, I have my, my day by day planner right here, and I'm like, oh, it is Friday the 13th. So
Hmm.
13 in numerology, that is the number, it comes down to the single number of 4, right? And 4 is a wonderful number. Okay. It is a great number. It is the number of, because you think 4, 40, 400, right? 0 being placeholders. So with that number 4, and I wish we had this, like this chart to go by, but if you can think of, or I'll put it this way, um in the temple or the tabernacle, that Moses was given instructions to build from the Most High. There were 3 compartments, and of those 3 compartments, there are like 7 steps, that number 7 being the number of perfection. There are a lot of people that have the number 7, the meaning of the number 7 and the meaning of the number 9 mixed up. 7 is the number of perfection. 9 is the number of completion. How do we know that? Because 9 solar months is the full term of a baby being born. 9 solar months is 40 weeks. 40 weeks, right? We say at 40 weeks, a baby is full term and they're born. So there's that number 40. 0 being a placeholder, we have that number 4. In this temple or this pattern, you have a lower level, a mid level, and an upper level. And that lower level, there are 3 steps. And at that 4th level, there's a veil. There's a veil that's taking you to that middle level, which is called the holy place. In the scriptures, it says, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. That means that you want to go through that fourth step, which is the door, or that 4th dimension, to get into that 5th step in that holy place where there's light, there's food, there's, everything. Like, people were scared of 5. What's this? Like, we had what do they call it? The 4G, right? There's a 4G. So then there's a 5G. Everybody, oh, the 5G stuff and this, that, and the other.
Right.
And and it's like, people in other countries, we're so far, we are 20 years behind here in this country. 20 years behind. Yep. We're behind in technology and everything. They've been on 5G over there in other countries, especially in China, right? Mm-hmm. Been on 5G. We're over here 4G, barely want to do that, and going crazy over 5G. Oh, they're gonna nuke us. Oh, we gonna, this. Oh, we gonna, when actually we've been operating on 5G for quite some time now. We really have. But I'm saying all that to kind of correlate that with, with this number 13, and 13 singling down to that number 4, because that number 4 is very important, right? So the 13th would be, 3D or 3 dimension, but add 1, right? Add the number 1. So that 4. And 4 is a transition. That's a transitionary point. Transitory. We want to get from that lower level, or that 3 dimension, or that lower realm, and go into that higher realm. So when I see the number 4, when I see the number 13, when I see those numbers, it's a good thing for me. Even let's look at the Savior. If we call him Jesus, or if we call him, Yahshua, I'll call him Yahshua by his Hebrew name. He had 12 disciples, which would make him what? The 13th. So it was 13 of them traveling around. Right. They traveled. Mm-hmm. He had 12 disciples. Well, plus him, that's 13. Right. So it was 13 of them traveling around, healing, teaching, all of that kind of stuff. So what's the problem with the number 13? And then, of course, we know in astrology, when we really get into the deeper studies, there's a 13th sign. How do you pronounce it? Okaphus?
Officious, or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a 13th, there's a 13th one. And when you add that one, that one is really in between, like the month of November. And we're in the month of November. So it's funny that we're talking about that. Yeah, because that's where that sign would be if we add that. And it's a constellation in the heavens.
Yeah.
It's a man with a snake.
Yes.
So 13 is to me, it's a lucky number. I'm not afraid of it. It's an occult number for sure, and it's not bad luck at all. If anything, it's good. So we want to get out of that. As far as the divine feminine is concerned, um, my gosh, oh God, there's so much that I can get into with the divine feminine. But as women, we really need to get back to operating in our feminine energy. Feminine energy attracts. It attracts. You know, let the men hustle hard, right? Let them hustle. Let them work hard. Women, we attract and we work smart. If we're not trying to be men, or if we're not attempting to operate in our masculine energy solely. Now, every one of us, man and woman, men and women have masculine and feminine energy. We all do, right? But just for
Right.
the sake of gender, and knowing how things go and operate and everything like that, when you look at our genitals, and I'll correlate this with the battery as well. When you think about you think about a battery. On one end, there's the negative charge. Negative does not mean bad. It just means that it's something that must be filled. Positive end, it's a projector, right? So you have a receptor and a projector. So that positive charge of the battery, at the top of it, it has the little, has the little thing that comes up. So when you think about women and men, as far as the genitals are concerned, what? Women, we have vagina. Something has to go inside of there. Men, they have penises. It projects outwardly. Now, here's the thing about that. When we are, like fetuses in the womb, before you have the X and the Y chromosomes, right? Two X's is a female, an X and a Y is a male. Now, when the fetus is in the womb, if they were if a woman was to get an ultrasound before maybe like the 6th or 7th month of her pregnancy, it can give her false results of her child being a female. Or is no, it's not. I think it's certain weeks. I forget which one it is. No, it's not 7 months. It's a
Weeks.
number of weeks. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
weeks. Okay.
Weeks. Mm-hmm.
So after, if she was to have this ultrasound before a certain number of weeks, and I want to say that it's maybe 7 or 9 or something like that, then she'll get false results. It'll be like, oh, this is a girl. Then next thing you know, it's born and it's a boy. Well, why? It's because the genitals and the scrotum sac doesn't drop down until after that 7th or 9th week or so. Whereas I don't think that's right. I don't think it's not the weeks. I don't know. It might be.
That's
It might be.
okay. I mean, I think we
But
still
we
get the
kind of,
gist of
yeah,
where
you
you're
get the
going
gist of
with
what
it.
we're saying. And
Right.
so and so the thing about it is, really, we're all feminine until that, to that boom, and it dropped down and it's like, oh, it's a boy, right? So with the battery, you take that battery, you put it inside of a remote. If you put that positive charge in to the positive side charge or whatever in the remote, and the negative, you lined up with the negative, it's not going to work. No power. You're like, why is this not working? But when you put the positive into the negative charge, and then and vice versa, now it's working, right? So the masculine and feminine must work together. But now, if you have women operating solely in masculine energy, now we got problems with men. If you have men operating solely in feminine energy with a woman, now you got problems. Because masculine energy and feminine energy must come together and work together. And that's even, say you could have a woman that say that she's more so, operates more in her masculine energy. She's gonna have to have, because I'm don't get me, I know it's all kinds of things going out here now. People have their relationships and stuff like that. But I'm just speaking in terms of, for the sake of clarity, a woman and a man, right? So if you have a woman that really operates more in her masculine energy, she would have a better relationship with the man that's more in his feminine energy, and then vice versa. Now, me, for instance, I'm more balanced in my masculine and feminine energy. I know when to use which energy. You just kind of size up a situation or a person or whatever. And if you see that they really operate more in their masculine energy, you're going to have to come with your feminine energy so that you all can work together and get along. And then if I see someone that's acting more in their feminine energy, I know that I'm gonna have to kick up a notch in my masculine energy just so that we can get along, right? But as a whole, in a collective, especially what's going on in the world right now, is so much of the masculine to where the feminine energy, but it's been drowned out for quite some time. But now I'm seeing where the feminine energy is really, um, um, I would say, I don't want to say making its return, but the feminine energy, it's putting itself out there, not attempting to be anything other than what it is, and taking its rightful place. I'll put it that way. The feminine energy is stepping on a throne and taking its rightful place to say, hey, I'm here, I matter, right? I'm here, I matter, and I will get the same love, respect, and everything that the masculine energy gets. Because without it, we're all dead. When we take it to the scriptures, it said Eve, that's being feminine, was the mother of all living. So if we don't have feminine energy, we're dead. We're dead. It's the mother of all living. Feminine energy is life. Feminine energy brings forth life into this world. And there's something that's trying to stop it, but it cannot be stopped. So we as women, instead of trying to, attempting to be so hard and act like men and, all of that kind of stuff, it's like, no, you have more power in your feminine energy than anything. Use it. Use it. And you don't have to demand respect. You command it. It's commanded. You step in a room somewhere and you sit down. You don't have to say a word. Your feminine energy will command the whole room. Step into your power. You don't have to be a man to do it. You don't have to act in your masculine energy to do it, but just balance your energies out. But feminine energy attracts. We don't have to work hard. That's my take on that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I have like two more questions, but before we end. But something you just said just reminded me of an experience that I had when I was still in the workforce. I'm going to share it real quick. I was running a community school program. So it's basically like a community center within a public school where after school hours, the school building is run by a nonprofit organization. And so when I was sent to this new school where I would be one of the assistant managers, we had to go over the schedule of which managers were covering which night of the week. And so I knew that being a younger mother at the time, I wanted to take Friday nights as my night to work late because I knew that my sister or whoever would definitely be able to take my daughter on Friday. So when I said in the meeting that I wanted to take Friday nights as the night that I would work late, because all of the other supervisors, all the other managers were men, they all, initially looked at me like, you can't supervise Friday night. And so I'm like, why can't I supervise Friday night? And they're like, because that's basketball night. That's when the hood comes and everybody play basketball till 10, 11 o'clock at night, whatever the case. So I'm like, so what's that mean? Right.
Right,
So
right.
I'm like, what does that mean? I'm saying we have security guards. Plus, also, it will not be a problem. And they're looking at me like, what? And I'm like, how would it be a problem? Who's going to disrespect me? And they all got quiet. And I said, the young men, the older men, whoever, none of them are going to disrespect me. And then they waited a minute and they were like, you know what? You got a point. You right. You got Friday night, sis.
See, exactly.
And every time I would leave the office and go into the gym, everything would stop. They would stop playing. I mean, I'm not even walking across the court, but everybody stops playing. Good night. Good night. How you doing, sis? Peace, sis. They stop whatever they're doing. Let me walk through, do whatever I'm doing, and then they go back to playing.
Exactly.
So that's just, it reminded me of that experience when you were sharing what you shared. So in closing, the last two questions. So do you have any other words of encouragement or a special message specifically for mothers that you would like to share?
Specifically for mothers. Whew. I'm like, that's a whole nother that's a whole nother podcast. But let's see, specifically for mothers, really everything that I just said. As far as the feminine energy, um this is gonna look, women don't like when I say this, but since we're in this space now where I'm not sure, like there's different states and how everybody's doing things or whatever, so I'm not necessarily sure about um what's going on with people with homeschooling, and if they're home or if they're back at work in the building or whatever. But I will say this, as far as mothers are concerned, mothers, the most powerful place that you can be is in your home. And I don't mean this in a way of, hey, quit your job and, and be at home and be a stay-at-home mom or anything. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is make your home your priority. Things have gotten off balance. Women are becoming, there's health issues, there's reproductive issues, there's things with breast cancer, reproductive issues as far as ovarian cancer and fibroid tumors and all of these kind of things. The thing is, going back to that whole spiritual thing and manifesting, right? We manifest if we think we do or not. No matter what, we still manifest. So we might as well manifest consciously and intentionally, as opposed to unconsciously and unintentionally. And next thing you know, we've manifested some type of illness, sickness, or disease in our bodies. They say, oh, women are emotional creatures. Everybody's an emotional creature. We all have emotions.
Right.
Emotions is just energy in motion. Men are emotional, right?
Yes.
Men are
Mhm.
emotional,
Yes,
but
they
you have
are.
to know what emotions are. I always reference this. It's a basic emotional scale, but it's a scale of emotions that all of the other emotions kind of stem from, like a tree, right? Now, the lower vibration emotions, I'm going to talk about the highest emotions on the lower vibration emotional scale. Okay. The
Mhm.
lowest emotion being shame, and the highest on the lower vibration emotions being pride. Okay. And I
Mhm.
think, I think, I think the top three of those lower vibration emotions are anger,
Mhm.
lust or desire, and pride. Well, guess what? Most men operate out of anger,
Anger.
lust, and pride. But
Right.
those are emotions.
Right. Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
But those are emotions. But then they get frustrated because they can't get any higher than that. So then what you got to do is you got to go out there and get a woman that's going to submit. But submit under what? That means that I want you to be lower than my anger, my lust, and my pride. So I got to put you and submit you under to either make you feel apathy or make you feel guilt or make you feel shame. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I ain't going to feel none of that. And I'm not going to be at none of them places, not even
Right.
at pride.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
So it's like, women, we have to get above and be beyond that, because we actually have to help them get from there. But not that we got to drag them along from that. But when it's like, look, when I'm somewhere, because see, I know where I am. I'm a healer. And most healers are operating out of the energy or the emotion, because that's what, again, emotions are energy in motion, emotion, energy plus motion, right?
Mhm.
Energy has to move. So, but healers are operating and vibrating on the frequency of love and joy and peace. You can't heal without love. You can't heal without joy. So you have this energy emitting. And then the highest is enlightenment. Enlightenment. You have to be enlightened, right? So you have to be there. Now, so when we talk about energy and we talk about emotions and we talk about, so if we're in those lower vibration emotions, then guess what? We're going to end up manifesting cancer in some way, shape, and form. So people wondering why, all this thing with cancer and everything, because cancer has to do with the on the physical side, it's a nutritional deficiency. That's why a lot of people, that the ones that really heal themselves of cancer, the first thing that they do is they change their diet.
Right. Mhm.
They change their diet because it's a nutritional deficiency. Well, that's the lower realm level. That's the manifestation level. Okay, so then what is the invisible side of that? Well, in our emotions, because you can't see emotions, you just see them expressed through behavior, right? So on that level, if we look at our emotions, that means that there's a deficiency in our emotions. It's something that we're missing emotionally. We have an emotional deficiency, and then it show up as cancer in a certain part of the body. So in the breast, it would have to do with nurturing. It would have to do with motherhood. It would have to do with parenting. And it may be guilt that's associated with parenting, or maybe something was, there's an issue with the parent child relationship, or the parent child relationship as far as, like yourself and your parents, or maybe yourself and your children, or not being able to nurture yourself, because that's what breast is. Breast, what do we do from our breast? We nurture from our breast. We breastfeed, right? And so it's a deficiency around, or an emotional deficiency around parenthood, parenting, self-care, all of that type of stuff. Well, if it's the issue with the reproductive or fibroids or ovarian cancer or something like that, well, now we're talking about a blow or deficiency in what's called the feminine ego, right? Relationship issues, you know, um, relationship issues with in marriage, or boyfriend, girlfriend, with significant others, utilizing your sexual energy in the way that's not healthy for you, right? Those type of things. And I've seen it. I've seen the manifestation of that. And so the first thing that we need to do as women, really, self-care. Forget it being a hashtag and something to put on social media. Ooh, I'm self-care. I mean, I'm got this latte or did in a massage or what. No, self-care needs to be priority, because we cannot function from an empty cup. Do not feel guilty as a mother if you feel like, hey, I need to sit down, lay down, whatever, and folks got to go around and fend for themselves, because you could be doing 50 million thousand different things, trying to make sure that your kids are straight, make sure that your significant other, husband or whatever, straight, and you just doing all of that, and you're giving, and there's no give back. You got to give back to yourself first, though. And if you have to say no to everybody else just so you can sit down and breathe good, then that's what you need to do. Take a break for yourself, take a nap, go get a massage. I'm a licensed massage therapist too. Massage, for that is not a luxury, it's a necessity. A massage alone would take care of so many other health issues. Just a massage, because touch is healing. Touch is healing. So anything to say to mother, especially mothers, because we sacrifice so much of ourselves for our family and our children. You got to stop throwing yourself under the bus. You have to get yourself a healthy routine. Take time out. If you got to wake up earlier in the day just to pray and meditate and sit still by yourself, get up and fix yourself. If you like coffee, fix your coffee. If you like tea, I'm a tea drinker. Fix you some tea and sit there just in peace and quiet. Meditation don't necessarily have to be, and all that. Just peace and quiet. Listen to the stillness of nothingness in the air, right? No sound. Don't turn on the TV. Don't turn on the radio. Don't turn on nothing. Just listen to silence. Pay attention to the thoughts that are coming in your head, right? Pay attention to them. What are those thoughts saying? Are they positive or are they negative? If they're negative, if they're taken away from you and things like that, then correct them. You have to nourish yourself first. Nobody else is going to do it for you if you don't do it for yourself. If you don't do it for yourself, when other people are attempting to help you and pour into you, you wouldn't even know what that's like. You wouldn't even be able to accept it. You wouldn't. Just because you don't give it to yourself, So give to yourself. Book a massage for yourself just once a month. I go to my massage. As a matter of fact, I'm really overdue for my my massage appointment. But every 4 to 6 weeks, you need a massage. And you could. I mean, I shouldn't put this out there as a massage therapist because I like, seriously, I'm not touching anybody for less than $75 an hour. I'm not And that's 60 minutes. I'm not touching nobody for less than 75.
Right. That's
But for
understandable.
because it entails a lot of energy,
Right. Mm.
um for the massage therapist too. We're transferring good energy into our our client. But for those who but I want this to be able to be affordable for every mother, right? We end up sacrificing and not giving to ourselves because we're giving so much to our family. But shoot, you could go on Groupon and find you every now and then a massage therapist may have a special that they put on Groupon so that they can get massage clients and stuff like that. Go on Groupon, see if you can find you a Groupon and get you a massage and make that routine practice for your self-care. I mean, if you don't have $75 for yourself for a massage every 6 weeks, you need to see Angelica or myself about partnering with us in the business that we have. You really do. You need to have that means you need money if you don't have $75 or more to get yourself a massage, right? So, we
Right.
all about helping people. So that
Hmm.
means that we all about helping you getting some money in your pockets, because that's the name of the game today. We live in America. We live in a capitalistic society. We don't want this country to be socialism. We really don't. I don't know if you've seen social, you know, countries that do socialism and countries that do communism. You don't want that here. I'm trying to tell you, you do not want that here,
Mhm.
so take advantage of the country that you live in. Get on the right side of capitalism, where we do have the freedom to create opportunities for ourselves to, hey, if you like Angelica, she has an abundance with Angelica, ascension with Angelica. That's a business that she has for herself, right? If you bake pies as a hobby and that's what you love to do, make it a business for yourself, right?
Mhm.
In order for you to be able to pour into yourself and your self-care, get a massage, and then go into, if you want to work out, if you can't do it at home for free, sign up for a gym membership, whatever. But you have to care for yourself, moms. you know,
Right,
moms,
right,
right?
right.
You have to, because your children deserves a better you. They do. They need to see a better you. They need to meet who you really are, not the stressed out mom, not the depressed mom, not the, I'm trying to make it mom, but who you really are, your best self. You owe that to yourself and your children. That's my message to mothers.
Thank you so much for that. And that is another good segue into the last question. So, why, let me first say how. How are you committed to legacy and wealth building and why?
Oh my gosh. I'm committed to legacy and wealth building because, number one, I have 7 children. Two, I have a granddaughter that she's standing. We eye to eye. She just made 11, but she's tall because her father is tall. I'm looking at where the scriptures say, leave an inheritance to your children's children. I'm looking eye to eye with who I'm supposed to leave an inheritance to. Um, I didn't have that. I didn't have that in a material sense, I should say, as far as, okay, like say my grandmother, I have a grandmother and grandfather well, no, I have a grandmother and both my grandfathers have passed on. I have a grandmother that's still living. I can, I can definitely tell you that as far as, wealth of knowledge, they did their job with that. So I can't take anything away from them with that. They gave me a wealth of knowledge. They gave me a wealth of my morals and things like that, and character building. They did a great job. However, they didn't have the as far as like the financial inheritance to leave behind, right? Um, yeah, at least I didn't see it. I'll put it that way. At least I didn't see it. They didn't leave me any bills. They didn't leave bills, but I had to do what I needed to do for myself, right? And
Mhm.
so when I started learning about wealth, um, it wasn't something that anybody told me about or anything. I just saw the issues as far as money and my family, you know, um, and more so my mother. My mother struggled a lot financially. She made a lot of money. My man, look, at one point I thought my mother was a drug dealer or something. I'm like, she bringing home like garbage bags full of money on it. I'm 12, 13 years old counting bands, okay? I'm like, what in the world are you doing? Um, she was an educator, but she also always had a home base. I mean, she was in direct sales or network marketing, stuff like that. And so I always saw her do very well with those opportunities, you know? Um, However, financial literacy wasn't there. And with financial literacy, you understand that um, just because you make more money doesn't mean that you need to spend it, right? We get a raise or we get an increase, we automatically up the spending. We get a raise or an increase, we automatically upgrade the lifestyle. But wealth building is really in between the oh wow wealth building really happens in between that, your income and that increase, because what you get in between is what you can start investing and have that money work for you. So this goes into, forget that hustle hard. You may have to do that in the beginning or something like that, but that's where you put your money to work for you, where now you're working smart and not hard, because uh your money can work 24 hours 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 366 days in a leap year. But you can't. We can't. We got to go to sleep at some point, right? And so I saw, like, okay, and then not only my mother, but I saw people who were, 100,000. I saw people, I knew people personally that won the lottery. I knew people personally that, that they made millions and millions of dollars. And then, so they went from rags to riches, and then from riches to rags. And I'm like, wait, what happened?
Mhm.
Why, how were you a millionaire and now you're broke, right? And
Mhm.
because I saw that early on, I set out to learn, but there was nobody that I could learn from around me. So I started buying books. I started buying books on wealth. I think the first book that I bought was, I had heard of Robert Kiyosaki. This was back in, maybe 99, 98, 99, 2000, somewhere around there. I had heard of Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But the first book that I bought of his was actually Rich Kid, Smart Kid, because while I was learning this, I wanted to teach it to my children at the same time. At that particular time, I only had 3 children. So um, I wanted to read that book with them, to teach them that we needed to do something different with money, because they saw me bringing home cash. And of course, they asked, "Ooh, she got a lot of money." And so I would sit down with them and really teach them financial lessons of, like, okay, yeah, you see mommy with all this cash, but I'm finna take out these bills right here. You see that light bill? Do you see this gas bill? Do you see this such and such and so and so? Okay, and then this is the rent. So now you see all of this money. Tell me how much that, tell me what that is. Oh, this is such and such and so and so. Okay, I will put that aside. And then after I would do all of that, and then I would say, okay, well, now how much money mommy got left? And they like, ooh, you ain't got much left. Right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when you asking me for money just because you see all of this, don't mean that because, hey, we need lights. Hey, we need gas. Hey, we need this. Hey, we need that. Hey, we need clothes. We need groceries, right? And but see, children need those lessons. The problem is we don't sit down and have those conversations with our children for them to understand. So that was my first really lesson and introduction to with my children, to teach them something about at least budgeting at that point. Then we get into Rich Kid, Smart Kid. And he even talked in that book about, his rich dad and poor dad, where his rich dad had a sixth grade education, but he owned a business, but he was wealthy. And then his poor dad was he was an educator. Actually, he had college degrees. He made $50,000 a year, but he was broke and frustrated all the time. And so, he was like, although, I respected my father because, I mean, hey, he worked hard, this, that, and the other. He said, but I would go over to my rich dad house because I didn't want to be like my father. He was, he was real respected in the community and everything. He had all these degrees and stuff like that, but he was frustrated because he was broke, and he's like, my rich dad over here, he had a sixth grade education, but he knew enough to hire people that had the degrees in order to work for him to grow his business. That was the gist of the book. Right.
Right.
and so that was Robert Kiyosaki's whole thing. So he said, yeah, I did go to school and I did get the education because, hey, that's what my father set out. He said, but even though I had those degrees, I knew that I needed to own a business. And that was that whole premise. So I started there. And then I started reading, the books that was on my mother's shelf the whole time, Think and Grow Rich, and she had The Millionaire Next Door. I'm like, shoot, I don't want to know about The Millionaire Next Door because that sounds like Keeping Up with the Joneses. I want to know what they think. So I ended up reading his next book. This was his name is Thomas Stanley. So he wrote The Millionaire Next Door. And then when I said, well, I want to know how he think, talking about manifesting, I went to the bookstore, and what book was right there? The Millionaire Mind. I manifested that, right? Right. I said, I want to know what he thinks. So his next book was The Millionaire Mind. I bought that book. How does the millionaire think? I want to think like a millionaire. I started reading those types of books. So I The Millionaire Mind, he got stopped acting rich and started living like a real millionaire. And then he has The Millionaire Women Next Door, because the journey of a wealthy woman is not the same journey as a wealthy man, because men usually have the support of women or their wives. Women don't have that. They don't. Sorry, but they don't. If they do, that's a blessing. Okay? When I tell you, that is a blessing. But in most cases, especially, when he did that, he interviewed the different millionaire women and all of that kind of stuff. All of them wasn't divorced, but in The Millionaire Mind, when he interviewed the men, their philosophy was, no, we don't get divorced, because divorce will kill your bottom line. Right? They like, there's no such thing as divorcing out, because divorce takes away the wealth. Now you splitting, you dividing everything. You done paid lawyers, you done paid the courts, you done paid, now you have alimony, child support, all this stuff up out of here. So they like, no. So they have a strict moral code and principles that they live by. They don't go out there dipping and dabbling and all that kind of stuff, because they know that would affect their money. So they don't do that. So wealthy men ain't out there like that. So then you can see what's going on with the ones that do. They got a broke mentality, poor mindset. So then But on the other hand, with the millionaire women, a lot of them were divorced. Not all of them, but a lot of them were divorced. And why? Because they ended up with somebody that had that poor mindset like that. And that person was just really, spending up all the money and doing all kinds of crazy stuff or whatever. And so they had to end up divorcing them in order to protect, first of all, their sanity and their health. And then second of all, their money. And then they ended up, soaring financially after said divorces. And when I read that, I'm like, whoa, that was interesting. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then, they may have like some remarried, but they're in a different, that now they're in a different mind frame, and they're in a different, where their wealth is concerned. So now they're in a different environment, and then meeting people that have a wealthy mindset. And so now it's like, okay, now it's safe to marry because this person has that same principle of, hey, we got principles and a moral code to, because we don't want our money going nowhere. Right?
Right.
Most of your divorces is the number one cause of divorce is not adultery. That's the second. The first is financial issues.
Sure is.
And it's those financial issues that lead to the adultery and fornication. That's usually like how it goes. And it's like, wow, but that's the, thing. And so when I set out to learn that, because I'm like, I have children. I want to, this something has to be different in my lineage, and my family line. Because here's the thing about it. There's another thing about that uniqueness and everything. I knew that I was wealthy. I knew that I was going to have a lot of money. I knew that early on. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. But I knew it. I felt it. It wasn't something that was like, imaginary or anything like that. It's just, I knew that within my soul. I just didn't know how, though. I thought I was going to be this, the next Madam CJ Walker, to be honest with you, that I was going to build a beauty hair empire. But that's not it. That wasn't the way. I'm more on the path of the way now. And it was a lot of lessons that I had to learn before, because if the wealth would have came back in my 20s, it'd be gone by now. Because I would have tried to help everybody. I would have gave everybody all my doggone money and all that kind of stuff, everything. But now that I've learned what I've learned about people and business and all of that, I'm not that person. Right? I'm not that person. And so you can't help everybody. Everybody that come talking about they want money, they need money, this business venture, this, that, and the other. You can't operate like that. You can't operate in your emotions. Um, um, you can't throw good money after bad. That's not what wealthy people do. But wealthy people are very generous with our time, very generous with information, but we give a hand up, but not hand outs. You teach a man how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. But if you give him a fish, he's gonna be right back the next day. You know, so so I teach my children that, the way to continue on with the legacy is not just, get the wealth and then you want to give it to your children, but then they don't have your same mindset. I homeschool my children. I brought them up out of that environment. And not that I did it on my own. It was one of those callings again where, spirit was like, you must homeschool. And I'm like, really? I'm trying to do hair. I ain't trying to homeschool nobody. But I had to. I felt that conviction. I did. And so in my homeschool curriculum, that's what I teach my children. I teach my children financial literacy. It's not being taught in the public school education. But the only way that they're going to make it in life and especially in this country, but all over, is to be financially literate, is to understand business, is to understand taxes, because when I leave them with what I'm building, they have to continue on with it. Wisdom and knowledge is the stability of our times and the strength of our salvation. It didn't say money was. Money answereth all things, but wisdom and knowledge is our stability. So they have to know what I know. They have to know wealth principles. They have to know, how to deal with money and big money and things like that. They have to have wisdom in order to do it and to use it, so that the work that I'm putting in now, building that foundation for us, is not in vain. I'll come back and hump them in they sleep. I will hunt them. I did all this work for nothing. You better use what I taught you, And so yeah, that's where I am, with these things. And right now, I've been trained by, many millionaire. I have 5 millionaire mentors. I was just with a room full of them this weekend in Houston. you know, we have to put ourselves in environments, because environment is everything. Look up epigenetics and environment, quantum physics, epigenetics,
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Lipton about that research and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when we apply that around the board, you can look at, they say, hey, if you got 4 broke friends, you're gonna be the 5th one. And more so mindset. And to be honest with you, the even in the spiritual community, this is what I find. There's people in the spiritual community have a hard time with money, because I think that they've been taught that money is, to have money or something like that is not spiritual, or it's dirty or whatever. But at the same time, what we buying crystals, and we're buying incense, and we're buying something. So somebody getting some money somewhere. Why do we have this love-hate relationship with money? Heal the relationship with money. Wealthy people are the most spiritual people I've ever met in my life, because they actually apply it and it manifests in their bank accounts.
Well, that is the perfect way to end this. Thank you so much for sharing your time, energy, and knowledge with us. If people would like to connect with you after hearing this, how should they do so?
You can find me on YouTube, Hadassah L. You can also find me on, where am I mostly? I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So you can find me there. You look up Hadassah L, or you can look up KanehMamaAstro. On Instagram, I'm KanehMamaAstro, and that is KanehMamaAstro. You can also use that handle to find me on Facebook, and you can use that handle to find me on YouTube. But you'll definitely see my name, Hadassah L, on all of those platforms.
All right. Thanks again. Happy Friday the 13th, and happy new moon in Scorpio coming up. Make sure you are focusing on the right intentions and manifesting the right things in details, as sis said. Okay. Peace, y'all.
Peace.